Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. That is the First Amendment to our United States Constitution. And it's something I practice daily, waking up with you every morning, laying out all kinds of things, and then afterwards, as a reporter for the Center Square and Illinois Radio Network, I ask tough questions to people who are elected by the people and spending taxpayer resources and whatnot. Somebody else who does this on the other side of the state in Chicago is William Kelly, and he's been making a lot of headlines lately with some of the questions that he's had for Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Well, he joins us now to talk about whether or not his press freedoms are being abridged. William, thanks for taking time with us this morning. What is going on up in Chicago with your press credentials?
Well, God bless you, brother, and thank you so much for having me on, Greg. I know that you are also a fan of the First Amendment, and you know I'm a fan of yours. And I can tell you right now, this is a classic First Amendment case. It is probably a little surprising, I think, at this time in history. You know, I would imagine that, people are probably thinking, how is it possible that the mayor of Chicago can cancel William Kelly's First Amendment or media credentials? Well, here's the situation in Chicago. Believe it or not, you need an official City of Chicago media credential to cover the mayor, to go to City Hall press conferences. And I've had an official credential for about 10 years now. I've covered other mayors, and I've asked them equally challenging questions. And but Mayor Lightfoot is the first one that literally took the step of saying these questions are hurting my reelection. I can't afford to have this William Kelly character showing up at my press conferences at City Hall or anywhere else for that matter in the city of Chicago and asking me these questions that consistently go viral. Millions of views, millions of likes, millions of shares, millions of comments. I don't even have to direct people to my website, williamjkelly.org or citizenkelly.com. All people have to do is just Google Mayor Lightfoot reporter, and they're all right there. The fact of the matter is that she doesn't want to have a reporter asking her about the violent crime, about the carjackings, about the loss of retail, on Michigan Avenue, the Magnificent Mile. Remember, Greg? Now it's an empty shell, and it's a scary place. People are stabbed to death in the middle of the street, literally. And I ask her questions about it.
And she doesn't like those questions, and it seems to be combative to a degree in the clips that I've seen of your questioning of the Chicago mayor. So walk us through what happened here, and as far as when you discovered that your press credentials, your media credentials, to get into certain areas where there are elected officials answering questions from the public. What happened here? When did you discover this, and what are the next steps in your case?
Well, thank you. The next step is federal court, and that's happening as early as next week. So anyone who wants to help with my William J. Kelly Legal Defense Fund, thankfully we have RememberAmerica.org that is handling this case, and they are, obviously, like most, I guess you could say, pro-American organizations, kind of a shoestring operation. So if you can go to RememberAmerica.org, make a donation in as large of an amount as you can. The beauty is that it is tax deductible. It's one of these 501c3 style organizations. They've already written up the case. Beautifully. It's poetic. I mean, I feel like it should be under glass somewhere someday, I would hope. It's Kelly versus Lightfoot. Remember that, Greg. Kelly versus Lightfoot, a phrase that hopefully will go down in history for truth. Okay, not for Lightfoot, but for truth. And the fact of the matter is, it is a little shocking. As you've even pointed out on previous chats that we've had, that how could it get any crazier than what we how is it possible that every interaction with Lightfoot just gets increasingly more and more crazy? Well, here we go. Here's the next level of crazy with this particular mayor that, in my opinion, I was born and raised in Chicago. I love Chicago and with all of my heart, and it breaks my heart to see what she has done in the city of Chicago, the way she, really seized the moment for her to lock down Chicago, schools, churches, businesses. We saw, I saw with my own eyes how she feels about people, trampling on people's freedom. So I guess I shouldn't have been too surprised when I got a letter, believe it or not, from her politically appointed police superintendent, David Brown, informing me that he was, quote, revoking, I call it canceling, my media credential, my, First Amendment, my, make no mistake about it, Lightfoot is trying to cancel me. Okay?
Did they give you any indication as to specifics as to why? I mean, they can't just arbitrarily determine who is and who is not a member of the media, right?
You want to bet? That's actually part of the actual lawsuit, the Kelly versus Lightfoot lawsuit, is that it also was it also trampled my 14th Amendment of due process. There is no written, explanation for why a media credential would be canceled. They didn't contact me and tell me that there was any way that I could somehow appeal this. It has been. I'll be honest with you, Greg. It set me back. I mean, it kind of put me back on my heels. Because I thought, how is this possible? I always thought that we needed a vigorous press, that we needed reporters. I grew up seeing reporters in Chicago. I don't know if you remember, Pam Zeckman or John Bulldog Drummond or, these types, Hugh Hill, these types of characters who would go to these press conferences and they would very, passionately, or some would say aggressively, ask questions of Mayor Daley. They would chase aldermen down the street out of the county or the federal courthouse, put their hand in put their foot in the doorway and shout questions into their offices, and I thought, okay, well, that's, I'm going to follow in this great Chicago tradition, and I'm going to ask this Mayor Lightfoot, why, what is her plan, when we have 80 shootings in a weekend, when we have a tourist, stabbed to death, in the financial district. What is your plan to address this? And sadly, her only plan was to cancel my media credential and prevent me from asking these questions. So, thank God for RememberAmerica.org. Thank God for anyone who wants to donate to my legal defense fund. It is tax deductible. Thank God for you, Greg, giving me the opportunity to kind of get the word out that this is actually happening. If they can cancel William Kelly, they can cancel Greg Bishop. They can cancel anyone. They can cancel anyone that they want to cancel.
Oh, William, I could probably share some stories with you about.
I believe you
about getting targeted by certain elected officials in certain capacities. But here briefly and finally, has anybody in the Chicago press corps stood up and said this isn't right and come to your side?
Well, Greg, that's an excellent question, and you would. And this is the chilling effect that Lightfoot's action has taken. Any reporter, you would think that they would all be up in arms about this, right? Regardless of how they feel about my questions to Lightfoot or how they feel about Lightfoot, et cetera. But no, opposite, the opposite. This has sent a message to any reporter in Chicago that thought that they would ever dare to raise their hand and ask Lightfoot a question, a challenging direct question, that they better not do it if they want to keep their job. And as you know, a lot of reporters, they they don't make a lot of money, Greg, and I think that they're just happy to, kind of type up their little report and submit it and see their byline. And, and I love, I'm currently, believe it or not, writing for, the Daily Mail. I like to see my byline too. But you know what I like even more? Freedom, the First Amendment, being able to ask real questions. And if politicians like Lightfoot can just simply cancel a reporter who wants to ask a real question, then that's all. Then you can forget ever that even the possibility of having a real, ever knowing the truth about what any of these politicians are doing. So please remember America.org. If you agree with, by the way, the truth has nothing to hide, Greg. Our entire lawsuit is on the website. So anyone who wants to see exactly, who William Kelly really is or what he's really doing or why this is happening, go to rememberamerica.org and click on Kelly versus Lightfoot. It's all right there. And you can read it, with your own eyes and make your own judgment. And if you like it, please share it and make a donation. And small or large, it's tax deductible and it's for freedom. And it really, it's funny because I talked to a wonderful friend of mine last night who was actually at a seminar for the Constitution. And I told her, make an announcement right now that there's actually a constitutional crisis in the city of Chicago that I need their help with, Well,
William, we'll definitely have to touch base on this in the future. This obviously is something that I think is important to continue to highlight as the First Amendment and the freedom of the press is extremely important. And people in power should not be able to arbitrarily determine who can and cannot ask them questions at a news conference. So we'll talk again soon, all right?
God bless you, Greg, and thank you for what you do.
It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News.